Alright guys, welcome to Deadbird Show. I'm your host Deadbird. Today is October 30th, 2018, and today we're going to be learning how to use rich text with our game, with our dialogue system. Now, if you haven't seen the first episode, you should watch that because it builds on that dialogue system. And as usual, I'm going to show you what you'll end up with. Oops, I did not do something. Okay. I'm going to show you what you're going to end up with. Hit space to enable our dialogue, like in our last episode, and we get some rich text going on here. You see how this is yellow, and this is bold, and this is italics, and if we hit next line while it's not done yet, it's going to finish it all the way. And along with some other stuff, I'll throw in some extras in there. Alright, so let's close out of this and let's go to our old project and let's get started. Alright, so here's our Unity scene. And you might be wondering, like, why can't we just bold the text like normal? Like this. Hello world. And theoretically, this should just bold and we don't have to do any coding at all. Well, if only that was the case. Let's see what happens. So this is the same old project that we left off from last time. And I'm gonna hit space, and look what happens. You get to see the less than, greater than sign first, and all of the stuff inside before it actually gives you the rich text. And so this is gonna be a little complicated, but let me show you how we're gonna do this. So we have this thing. We're gonna call this our start tag. Then we have the text. And then we have our end tag. And notice I put a slash in there is because the end tag, or this thing, always has a slash inside of it. That's how it knows that it's the end tag. So if we have all of this, then this will become a rich text. And so how do we translate it so that we don't get these nasty tags when it's being typed out? Well, hold on, let me open up the script. Where we add the text here, character C, we're gonna do something like plus equals the start tag plus the end tag. So that way it all gets printed out at once. So we're going to make a new variable, like well, we don't have to make a new variable. We're basically plus equals, and then this, and then the character, and then the end tag. And do it for all of them. And then we also have to get rid of these start and end tags too. So that's how we're going to do it. And for this, we're going to be using string builder. So make sure that we derive from Unity engine.text, or no, system.text, sorry. System.text. This will give us access to the string builder. And basically, string builder is a more efficient way of adding characters or strings to a string. And so let's make a new string builder. We'll call it SB. And we have to initialize it. New string builder. No. New string builder. And there, it's initialized. And so we're going to get rid of this. Instead of doing that, we're going to do sb.append, which is basically the same thing as like plus equal, where we're adding. Well, actually, what does append mean? append. Add something. Yeah, okay, yeah, we're basically the same thing, adding it. Append C. And then we're going to get rid of this. Make it equal to sb.toString. There we go. So if we play it again, the exact same thing's going to happen. Except it's just a little more efficient. So if you're ever adding characters or strings to a string or to a text, whatever, you want to use string builder because it's just efficient, more efficient. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, let's just start making some variables that we're going to use. So I said earlier we're going to be using a start tag and end tag. So let's make that. And it's going to be a string. And we'll make a start tag. Use private get private set. And you might be wondering why we're doing this instead of just having a public string end tag like this. Why are we using get and set? Well, we don't want to mess with this in the inspector panel. We don't want to ever set this in the inspector panel. So I show you what this looks like. There you go. Then we can type stuff in the end tag here, but we don't want to do that. And we still want it to be public because we're going to be setting it in a different script. So we're going to set, get, and set. Oops. There we go. Alright. So now we have that. Let's make a new script. And we'll call it... there you go. Rich text parser. Open that up. Get rid of this. We're also going to get rid of mono behavior because it's not gonna sit on a game object. It's just gonna sit in our scripts folder, and it's gonna analyze the text for us, and it's going to basically format it for us the way that we want it, like I showed you in our little demo over here. Alright, so what are some things that we need in here? We're going to need a function that basically will parse the text for us. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to say public static rich text parser. We'll call it parse text, and it's going to take in a string and call it text to parse. We'll make another one, public rich text parser, and we'll pass in, well actually before we do that, I'm going to show you we're going to return a new rich text parser, and we want to put a string in here. The tag, well, even if I try to put in the text to parse, so example, it's going to give us an error. That's because we need to put a string here, call it tag text, and then now it's going to want a string. So let's make some strings. Variable start node is equal to text to parse dot substring. Oops, not substring. Index of, and we want this symbol. I'm just gonna do the same thing, except change a couple of variables around. Instead of start node, we'll call it end node. Instead of a less than sign, it's going to be a greater than sign. And then we'll make another variable. We'll call it tag equal to text to parse, and this is the substring. Then we're going to use the start node, comma, end node, and then minus the start node, plus 1. And then we're going to add the tag in there. Alright, so what does this all mean? Well, let's look at an example. And so we have our text here, and this is our text to parse, which is the parameter that we're passing in, text to parse. So this is what we're going to pass in here. And imagine if this is our text to parse, like that. Well, what does the start node do? Well, before that, we basically need to take this start tag and this, just this a tag, basically. We need to find a tag, and we need to store it into a string. So it's going to find the first tag that it possibly can and store it into a string. And the way we do that is we have this start node here. We could do it all in one line, but it's just easier to see this way. So we have our start node. It says text to parse index of less than sign. So it's basically gonna find the first instance of the less than sign and store it as an integer. And so we have our text here, and it's gonna look through and go. It's gonna look through each text until it finds the less than sign, which is right here, and it's gonna stop right before the less than sign. So if we count, is 1, 2, 3, 4. It is the fourth character in our string, and so it stores that 4 into the start node. And then we're gonna do the same thing, except we're gonna try to find the greater than sign. So it's gonna look through and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I found it. It's the fifth one. Okay, so now we have 4 and 5. 4 is our start node, and 5 is our end node. And then we're gonna put that into a string, and we're gonna have this tag equal to text to parse, which is the entire thing, but we want it to be a substring. So only a section of it is going to be our tag, and this section is going to be this part here. And so now the substring is going to take a index, a start index, and then a length. So where is it going to start? Well, we already have the start node. It's going to start right here at the it's going to start at the 4th index, which is right here. Cool. So now you're thinking, well, then you just go to the next one over here. Because that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But, however, it's relative to the start index. So it's going to count from 5 right here at the 4th. Because this is where it's going to start. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this entire thing is going to be our tag. We don't want that. So we're going to subtract from the start, which is 4. So the end is 5 minus 4, which is 1. So it's going to go over just 1. So now we have this. But this is not their entire tag. We still need the greater than sign. So we're just going to add 1. And then boom, we have our entire tag stored into a string called tag. Cool, so now we have a way to get our tags. But remember, we're returning a string tag, but we're not storing it anywhere yet. So we're just going to do that real quick. And we're going to say, we're make a new variable, call it public string tag text, do get and private set, because we don't want to set this anywhere else except for within our script. So then we just say this dot tag text is equal to tag text, and the reason why we use the word this is because tag text, we're using two variables called tag text, and it can be kind of confusing, so we're just going to use this to make sure that we're getting the right one, which is this one. Alright, so let's go back to our dialog manager, and let's do some stuff in here. So basically, the first thing we're going to do is we're gonna make a new function and call it public void reset variables, and this will just be ease of quality of life change. Because we'll be putting putting a lot of stuff into our reset variables. And so instead of having to put it here, we're just gonna put it all in here, so it's a little more neat. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to so the first thing we're going to do is convert this from a for each to a for int. For int I equal to 0, I is less than, and we're going to make a new variable and call it public string body to, or let's just call it, yeah, let's call it body to print. And we're gonna set is less than body to print dot length I plus plus. I'm going to put that all, we're just gonna get rid of this. We don't need that. Put that all in there. And so the reason why we're doing this is because, remember before, we're going to trim off the tags from the text, but we don't want to do that to the actual scriptable object itself, because it's going to save even after the play mode's over. So if we strip the tags from the scriptable object, then it's going to save, and we're just going to be left with this after it's stripped, and it's going to stay like that. We don't want to mess with this at all. And so we're going to, instead of appending C, we're going to append body to print at the I index. Cool. Alright, so now we need to check if the character that we're printing out is a less than sign. Because if it's a less than sign, that means it's a tag. And so we need to start doing stuff. And so how do we check that? That's the question. We're going to check it like this. If body to print I is equal to the less than sign, then we're going to do something. We're going to make a new variable. We call it public bool. We're going to call it is rich text. Get, and then we're going to do a set. And then we're going to make is rich text equal to true. Is rich text equal to true. That means that the text that we're about to print out is a rich text, and we need to do stuff to it so that it gets printed out properly. And so we're only going to want to print out this regular no rich text only if rich text is false. So is rich text if not rich text. Oh. And if you don't know, putting an exclamation point before is rich text is the same as saying if it equals false. There's a different way of doing it. It means the same thing. Okay, so what happens if rich text is true though? So if is rich text, then we're going to append the body to print. And like I said before, instead of just doing body to print, we're also going to be adding the start tag and then the end tag all in one, so that when it gets printed, each character is going to be printed as a rich text. And so we have this, but how do we know how many characters to print out as a rich text? Right now it's just going to print out everything as a rich text. It's not going to stop. Well, let's go store that into a variable. We're going to find a way to get that information, and we're going to store that into a variable. And that variable will be called, it's going to be an integer, and it's going to be called, we'll call it amount to rich. Do get, do set. And we also are going to need an index so that we can keep track of which index we're at, or how many we've rich texted so far. So we'll call it public int. We'll call it rich text index get set. And so let's put it in here. If rich text index is less than amount to rich, then we're gonna go and keep appending the start tag, body to print, and end tag. Then we also need to increase the rich text index by 1 because we just rich texted something. And then we also need to set it to false if rich text index is not less than amount to rich. So rich is rich text equal to false. So then we just get out of there, and then we'll do the regular text. Okay. So now that we have all of this set up, we need a way to actually get the amount to rich information. And we also haven't set the start tag and the end tag yet, and we'll do that all in one function. But before we do that, we'll just need to make sure that we reset the rich text index every time we get to a new character, or to a new less than sign. or a new tag, I should say. Alright, so we're going to now do the hard part, which is, so what do we need to do? First, we need to find out the amount that we need to rich text, and then we also need to set the start tag and the end tag. So let's make a, oops, what did I just do? So let's make a public static void, call it get rich text value, and we'll be passing in a string. We'll call it text. And the reason why we're making a static void is because, well, static because this isn't going to be on a game object, so we need some way to access it. By making it static, we can access it anywhere because there's only one of them. So, first, we're going to make a dialog. We're going to make a reference to the dialog manager, so we don't have to constantly do dialog manager.instance. We'll do it once, and then there we have access to the dialog manager every time we call this function, and we don't have to type it out every time. So we're going to for loop. We'll start off with a for loop. Equal to 0. I is less than the text length. So basically you go through the entire text and find all the tags, or find the start tag and the end tag. That's what we're going to do. I++. So make a variable. We'll call it the remaining text equal to the text.substring I text.length minus I. So what does this all mean? Remaining text equal text.substring I whatever, yada yada yada. So we already talked about what substrings are, and so how this works is we have our text. We have our text here, and I is going to be 0, and it's going to increase by 1 every time we go through the for loop. So it'll start at 0, it's going to go to 1, it's going to go to 2, it's going to go to 3, and it's going to go to 4. And so we have the start, now we need the end. We need to get the end of the string. We need to get to the end. And so the way we do that is text.length, that's the end. That's the entire thing. Goes from start to finish. But then we remember that it's relative to the start, so it's going to go way past. We don't want that, so we're going to subtract by I, and then we'll get the rest of the string. So this is going to always be the remaining text of the string. So now that we know that, we can use that. We can check if the remaining text, if it starts with the less than symbol dot toString, because then, oops, we forgot. Alright, there you go. Just having to match up the parentheses and whatnot. So now we know. Alright, so the ith member, the remaining text, is a less than sign. So we know that. So we know that it's a tag. So we need to store that somehow. Okay, so we're gonna. So we already have a way to store the tag. So we're gonna use that. So we'll make a variable, call it parsed text is equal to parse text. Oops, parse text. no, not itself. Parse text the function parse text, and we're gonna pass in the dialog manager dot body to print. And the reason why we're using body to print and not the remaining text is because we're going to be taking out the tags in the body to print, and so if we use the remaining text and we didn't take out the tags, it's gonna keep registering the first tag and it wouldn't move on from that one. So we don't want to do that. So instead we're going to use the body to print instead. And then we need to check if it's a start tag or if it's a end tag. And there is a really easy way to do that. We're going to check if parse text dot tag text contains a slash symbol, because remember, our end tag is always going to have toString. Our end tag is always going to have a slash symbol in it. And then else, if it doesn't have a slash and it's in the start tag. So now we can say, well, dialog manager dot end tag is equal to parse tag dot tag text. And we do the same thing over here, except instead of doing the start or end tag, we can do the start tag, because we know that it's a start tag. Parse text dot tag text. Cool. So now, like in our example, we have a way to store the start tag and the end tag, and then our character in between it. So now it's going to print properly, but there's a few more things we need to do. So first, we need to remove the tags, because we got the tags, now we need to get them out because we don't need them anymore. So dialog manager dot body to print is equal to dialog manager dot body to print, and now we replace the parsed text dot tag text with an empty string, with string dot empty. Cool. Now we do the exact same thing over here. And we actually don't even have to change anything. And now that we've deleted it from the body to print, now we need to move on from the remaining text, because it's going to read the entire thing. It's going to read our entire tag out, but we don't need it anymore. So we don't have to actually remove it. We just have to add I plus equals parse text dot tag text dot length. We're going to subtract by 1. And then we're going to do the same thing over here. And so it's going to move on from the tag text. And so it's not going to look at that anymore, because it's a little bit of waste of time to do that. We don't have to, but it's a little more efficient that way. And then once we get to the end tag, we can return out of it, because we don't need to do anything else anymore. We found the closing tag, the start tag, and the end tag. Now we can get out. But we still haven't found the the length from... We still haven't found the text length. The length of this text. We need to know how to find the length of this text. Well, if we just went from this symbol to this symbol, you might be like, oh, well, it's easy. We just do the index of the greater than symbol to the less than symbol. But there's already another less than symbol, and it's right here. It's going to get that confused, and it's going to take this one and then go here. But we have another unique character, and that's the slash symbol. So we're going to take from the greater than symbol all the way over to the slash over here. So let's go get that, and we're going to put it over here, because if we put it in the end tag area, then we've already deleted the start tag. So it's not going to have a start tag, or it's not going to have this, symbol here, this greater than symbol here, because we removed it already. So we have to store that variable at the beginning of our start tag, text to rich, and we'll make it equal to remaining text. Actually, we don't even have to do that. We can just do dialog manager dot amount to rich, because remember, this is going to be the length of that substring, or the length of the amount that we have to rich text, is equal to remaining text dot substring text dot index of and we're going to put in the greater than symbol. We're not going to use any less than symbols because it's going to mix it up at the beginning. Do comma. We're going to do text dot index of, and we're going to do the slash symbol. And we're going to subtract, remember, because it's relative to the start. We're going to do subtract index of greater than symbol, and then we subtract by 2, and then we do dot length, and boom, we're done. And because we're getting it at strange spots, like we're not doing it from the start to the end here, we're doing from here to here, we have to subtract by 2 because it gets a little funky. And so cool, we have the amount to rich, so that gets set. But we still haven't set what body to print is, and we're just gonna set it right over here. So body to print is going to equal info dot my text, dot my text. Boom. So now body to print is going to equal info dot my text, and we're going to have a reference to that. And it's going to copy that, and we can mess with this all we want, and it's not going to do anything to info dot my text, which is our scriptable object. So now that we have it all set up, we need to make sure that we reset all of those parameters, all those variables, before we use them. Because it's going to work the first time, then when we use it again, it's going to get all messed up. So first, we're going to make the string builder length equal to 0. That's basically just going to reset the text. And then we do rich text index equal to 0. Then we're going to do is rich text equal to false. Do amount to rich equal to 0. And then that should be good for now. Oh, we still haven't called it yet. So we've set it, but we need to now just call rich text parser. And because it's static, we can have access to all this. Notice we only have access to 2 of our functions because those are the ones that are static. So get rich text value, and it's gonna need a string, remember? And so we're gonna set it to my info. Oh, not info dot my text. Boom. All right. So now that we have, we put my info dot my text not body to print because we want the unedited version. So now that we got all that set up, this should all work now. Let's test it out. Cool, it works. Let's add some color so you can see it better. And actually, I think I know how to do it. Let's add some color. I think it's color equals yellow. And then slash color, and we'll put in some more text like this should not be yellow, and then we'll put this should be yellow, and we'll add something like the end. So this should not be yellow, should obviously not be yellow, and this should be yellow, and the end shouldn't be yellow. So let's see if that works. Alright, so I figured out the problem. I would reshoot the video, but I'm a little too lazy for that, so instead I'm just going to show you the fix. So it has to do with our rich text parser, and basically it's not remembering where we left off. And also the way we get the length. So we're gonna do something like this. We're going to make a public int and call it current index, and then we're going to get and set, and then we're going to make I equal to current index. Oops, sorry, we need to make it a public static int that we can use it. Oh, current index. There we go. And so now it's going to remember where we left off, and we just have to implement it. So we're going to make current index equal to I, and then we're just going to replace everywhere with I with current index instead. Make sure we got everything. Okay, now remembers everywhere that, or it'll remember where we left off, basically. And we're gonna get the amount to rich a different way, because for some reason this is just not working. Just not working properly. So we're going to do remaining. We'll just make a new variable and call it variable length, and it'll be equal to the remaining text dot index of the backslash minus the remaining text index of less than sign minus 2. Oops, not equals, minus. There we go. And then make this equal to length. And boom. That should be everything. Let me just double check. Should be good. And then let's also make sure we reset that current index. So dot current index equal to 0. Cool. Let's go in. There we go. Put some more text in there so you can see that the end won't get eaten up. And so there you go. This text should be yellow and everything else isn't yellow. And if you want to see multiple rich text in a single text file, the next line is, or the next word is bold. Let's see if that works. This should not be yellow. This should be yellow. This next word is bold. There you go. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and maybe become a patron. If you do become a patron, then you're a homie. Goodbye.